Hello and welcome to Tull the Truth. This is our podcast where we talk about Jethro Tull, and we're going to go through all of their albums as the episodes go along. This is our sequel series to Kiss and Tell, where we talked about the albums of the band Kiss. If you're not familiar with Jethro Tull, I'm going to go ahead and give you a bit of historical background here and there. Now, my co-host Bill Leon is joining me on this adventure as I've joined him on his Kiss adventure. So, Bill, what can you tell me going in to Jethro Tull? What was your knowledge of them as a band?
Well, as a teenager, I was really into prog rock. Started with Pink Floyd, went into I know Genesis was a big band for me, but in between, I definitely got into Tull. Stuff like not all of King Crimson. I know you're a King Crimson fan, but I could never really get past that first album myself.
Well, honestly, I love that first album, and that is by far their best.
Mm-hmm.
The other albums of theirs that I enjoy, The Wake of Poseidon and Red, I like quite a lot. But you're right, there is a lot of... I think they get a little too experimental for my taste.
Well, I was really into Genesis when Peter Gabriel was still in the band,
Mm-hmm.
and Peter Gabriel would play flute with Genesis, and at some point someone else said to me, "Hey, you know there's another prog rock band that has a lot of flute in it," and it was Jethro Tull.
You could actually say there's another prog rock band that wrote the book on putting flute in music.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely true. It's interesting to note that Ian Anderson, will be using his name quite often because he, for all intents and purposes, is the only member of Jethro Tull who has stayed with them since day one.
Right.
If you go to their band history, technically they broke up around 2011 because since then Anderson's been just touring as himself, playing Tull music. But the only other consistent member, Martin Bear, was with Tull from I believe their second album on, and that was the guitarist of the band, the lead guitar.
And I got my hands on Aqualung, and it was great. I loved it. I listened to it all the time back then. And then I had started, like I said, I was into prog rock, so these very long tracks were very much a thing. Genesis song, The Musical Box, is like 10 minutes long. Another Genesis song called Supper's Ready is almost 26 minutes long. And
right. Yeah, and that's
Pink
what...
Floyd, yeah, everyone's done it. All the prog rock bands have done their giant, borderline 20-minute epic rock track. But then I heard about Thick as a Brick, because a buddy of mine had basically said to me, he was like, all right, Aqualung, did you know these guys did a record that is essentially like one continuous track? I mean, it is broken up between the two sides of the record, but it is meant to be.
Yeah, right. That's a necessity of technology. I mean, yeah, Thick as a Brick is roughly 43 minutes long, and it is one continuous song. And the only other prog album I can think of that does that more or less same thing would be actually Jethro Tull's own A Passion Play, or for that matter, Tubular Bells by Mike Oldfield.
Oh yeah.
And even those two albums still have things that broke up the album a little bit more. I would say Thick as a Brick is probably the only album from the classic prog era that is that I know off the top of my head. I'm sure I could probably think of some others if I really concentrate. That is really just one single song, without little breaks. We'll get into Passion Play later and why that has a little bit of a break in the middle, but
well, just to cap off my personal experience, like, yeah, I had Aqualung. I heard about Thick as a Brick. I didn't get it till a little bit later, but there was sort of this mystery around it for me of like, what is this album? It seemed like a prog rock fan's goldmine. And then I got the record, and I open up the booklet to the CD, and I'm just so fucking confused about like this little boy wrote an essay, and like I don't understand any of that.
We'll go into that in great detail. Thick as a Brick is going to be one single episode. While some of our episodes are going to lump a couple albums together, that is one that has more than enough material to talk about for the length of an entire episode.
Mm-hmm.
Today's episode, though, we're going into the formative years of Jethro Tull, that being their early albums and their early singles. Jethro Tull was formed in 1968, and at the time, Ian Anderson was not actually technically the head of the band. It was sort of a joint venture between Anderson and guitarist Mick Abrahams. And Mick Abrahams, if you've ever heard of his work, he was very into jazz rock and blues rock. He would break off from Jethro Tull shortly after their first album and form a band called Bloodwind Pig, which was sort of his blues rock project.
I mean, honestly, the name Bloodwind Pig sounds like it could be a Jethro Tull trolling as a different band, you know?
If you listen to the album, it very much has a lot of references and influences from the This Was album. Before we get into This Was, though, we're going to play a couple quick bits from their early singles that they released before they even recorded an album. The very first single released by Jethro Tull had an A-side song called Sunshine Day with the B-side called Aeroplane. And through a very hilarious mistake on the part of the record company, they were actually renamed Jethro Tull, T-O-E. Now, before we play this music, I do want to mention people often wonder how the band got its name. First of all, are you familiar with how they got their name? I just thought I would...
No.
All right.
I thought about it, but I got nothing.
Well, and that's one thing that people often... Ian Anderson has said a question that people often have come up to him, even today, still come up to him and ask, how's Jethro doing? Well, Jethro is long since dead. Jethro was a 18th century agriculturalist.
Okay, all right.
And his work specifically, I actually have it pulled up here. He is most notable as having perfected the horse-drawn seed drill, which sowed seeds into neat rows. So he was basically very notable for his work in improving farm techniques, sort of a precursor to the Industrial Revolution in the early 18th century.
It reminds me of the lyric from Pink Floyd's Have a Cigar. By the way, which one's pink? There is no fucking pink, asshole.
And who's Floyd?
Yeah, well...
Hootie and the Blowfish, people have often asked who's Hootie and which one's the Blowfish.
Right, yeah.
Or, it's that way with a lot of those. To be fair, if you're naming a band...
Well, here's the deal. Here's what I have to say about that. I had a band in high school, and oddly enough, we kind of had, like, this other band that we shared, like, similarities with and we were cool with. But, okay, so that band was called Buddy Lime and the Coconuts. And obviously nobody is Buddy Lime, but the title implies that the frontman is Buddy Lime. So, you know, take that as you will. I say, like, if that's the case, like, if you're going to call yourself Hootie and the Blowfish and you're the frontman, you're fucking Hootie.
Well, hey, it's like in the Beatles' early days, their initial manager was not satisfied with simply calling them the Beatles. So their very first UK tour, John Lennon had his name changed to Lon John, and they called it Lon John and the Silver Beatles. Which is friggin' terrible. I guess it's, you know, if they became famous as Lon John and the Silver Beatles, you know what, I don't think they would have. So anyway, without further ado, here is an excerpt of the very first single they recorded, Sunshine Day, and you will hear in this a very heavy influence of the time it was recorded in the it may have been as early as 67. I think Tull actually came together at 67 and started recording in 68. So let's hit play. All right.
I'm going to go ahead and just say it seems like in the late 60s it was a lot easier to get into a recording studio than it is today. Because it seems like everyone and their mother had a hit single. Right off the bat, this sounds like the Monkees. Like, straight up, this could be a Monkey song.
I can certainly see that. And it's worth noting, Sunshine Day did not chart. So we'll go ahead and stop that there. Yeah, Sunshine Day is, I think, a very formative sound for them. It very much sounds like, and I think you're very right in pointing out the Monkees' influence. I think it sounds like a band that's trying to figure out who they are and what they're going to do with themselves. So they get themselves into a studio. Let's play a song that we have written. And anyone who's tried their hand at writing songs knows that their early stuff is pretty much going to sound very derivative of things they're interested in listening to. Just because that's what they're familiar with. They haven't quite learned how to create their own voice.
Mm-hmm.
And their B-side, Aeroplane, we'll go ahead and press play on this.
Yeah, well, this plays, I gotta say, like, it was probably more difficult for Jethro Tull, somebody that, a group that started out in 68. It was probably harder to define yourself in the late 60s than it would have been as a band that started out in the late 60s going into the early 70s. I'm sure that, because there was a lot of bands that started out in the late 60s but didn't really become noteworthy until the 70s rolled around and there was kind of this need for change and need for a new sound.
Mm-hmm. Let's let this play for a little bit here.
Going somewhere high in the evening, tumbling down, but it's surely been up there.
I can definitely get down with this. I like I like most late 60s production work. It was a good time to be making records.
And so Aeroplane is, just a kind of, I would call it psychedelic blues. It's definitely got that late 60s sound. It could have come from any number of bands. And that's the thing. At this point, they haven't been as clearly defined. Now, we mentioned that Jethro Tull is big with the flute. And the flute was actually something Ian Anderson learned specifically to give Jethro Tull a little bit extra. And because the band already had a guitarist who could play better than him, he didn't want to be just the singer.
Right.
He could play guitar fine. And actually, Anderson is very talented on guitar. But Mick Abrams was very much the head honcho in guitar land as far as the band was concerned. So he actually learned to play the flute, and they were playing live with him playing the flute within several weeks of him first taking it up. And that's it shows how incredibly skillful he is, and how it's almost I would almost call it a it's a gift to be able to pick up an instrument that quick.
That's an understatement because, like I said, my teenage years, I was into prog rock, I was into Genesis, Jethro Tull, and I was in a band. I tried to learn to play flute. If you want to feel like a mentally challenged person, pick up a flute and try to play it.
Right. Yeah. it doesn't make sense. I mean, with every other wind instrument, you have to put your mouth over it or into it. With a flute, you have to have it just the right angle and blow across it, and that itself is difficult. So anyway, we're going to jump right into the album. This was, now, a little bit of background about it. The album was released in, let's see, I have the release date of this in the UK was October 25th of 1968, and it was released in the US in 1969 in February. It charted at number 10 on the UK charts. Not a bad debut. There were no hit singles off of the album itself.
But number 10 that's a really solid debut for an album with no hit singles.
Yeah, it's worth noting, I mean, as far as that Tull really wasn't a singles band. They had a few songs here and there that would chart, but even regardless if it was the UK or the US, they didn't tend to stress that. And in fact, some of their most well-known songs were never even released as a single. I would say the song that most people associate directly with Jethro Tull is the song Aqualung.
Yeah. Also, Locomotive Breath is a big one for a lot of people.
Absolutely, and neither of them were singles. In fact, I don't believe any song from... they actually, of all things, Hymn 43 was released as a single from the Aqualung album. Which, does anyone know that one? I do, because I'm a Tull fan. But...
Well, I was going to say, yeah, not off the top of my head, but I should point out it's been ages since I've listened to Aqualung, so...
And we'll be definitely getting into that in our next episode. So, without further ado, here is My Sunday Feeling, the lead off.
My Sunday feelings coming up over me. My Sunday feelings coming up over me. Now that the night is over, gotta clear my head so I can see.
Right away, what you get off of this single is you get the heavy blues rock influence, but also the amazing thing about it, and what makes it really a neat track, is how blues rock is mixed with the jazz flute influence to kind of meld together two sounds. And it really, I think it's a bold early statement for the band. It tells you right away, this isn't Cream. You're not going to get psychedelic blues rock. We're also going to throw in some jazz that you may not be familiar with.
I was going to bring up Blue Cheer, but Cream works rather well.
Well, yeah, Blue Cheer. You could say that too. This isn't Summertime Blues.
It wouldn't, but I'm saying you can tell these guys were probably listening to a lot of that stuff.
Oh, absolutely, and particularly Mick Abrams, because his career would be dominated by blues and jazz, particularly blues. And this first song, I think, also shows that as a songwriter, Ian Anderson, which My Sunday Feeling was written by Ian Anderson.
Just him?
Yes, just him.
Oh, man.
As a blues...
I gotta say, I didn't know that. I assumed that the other guy was involved because the flute is really where you get that Tull influence, because, like I said, I've heard their two biggest albums, and that flute is right on point with, their more famous stuff that they would go on to do.
Abrams played a huge role in arranging the songs at the time in particular, which accounts for the bluesy sound. He only wrote, though, on the album, he has credits as a songwriter on only one track. And we'll get to that one in a moment. But once again, being a blues song, the lyrics are very simple. My Sunday feeling is coming on over me. Now that night is over, gotta clear my head so I can see. till I get to put together that old feeling won't let me be. And yeah, it's simple, but I think it comes together very well with the musical arrangements.
I'm lost. What is this song about? It sounds like Saturday night. This guy was drinking a lot, and now the next morning he can't quite get to sleep.
Well, here I'll read the next verse. Won't somebody tell me where I laid my head last night? I really don't remember, but with one more cigarette, I think I might. Till I get to put together, well, that old feeling can't get me right.
Oh,
Need some
man.
assistance. Have you listened to what I said? Oh, I don't feel so good. Need someone to help me to my bed. Till I get put together, that old feeling is in my head. That Sunday feeling to me is this is a hangover song.
Mm-hmm.
That Sunday feeling. Saturday night was the feeling of, drinking with the friends. The Sunday feeling is just, And so that's kind of a cool thing. I mean, for instance, if you've listened to our other podcast, Kiss and Tell, you know that the vast majority of the songs that Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley write are about fucking, or at least women. Yes, that exactly. So Tull starts off instead, by contrast, a song about a hangover, which is kind of an interesting topic. It's a very specific topic.
I can't think of a single '60s song that tackles this subject matter lyrically.
Yeah, well, I mean, other than this. And, yeah, I mean, maybe you could say Randy Newman's song Mama Told Me Not to Come.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That very much has that same feeling of... It's not exactly hangover, but it's the feeling of waking up in the morning after a big party.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, so I would say that would probably be another solid example.
I almost have to take back what I just said, because the late '60s was like the pinnacle of abstract lyricism, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, absolutely. There's...
The girl with kaleidoscope eyes.
Mm-hmm. Or In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida.
In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida.
in the Garden of Eden, if the rumors are true. So the next song on the album, Someday the Sun Won't Shine for You. This one has a classic old school blues sound.
In the morning, gonna get my things together, packing up and leaving this place. I don't believe you'll cry, there'll be.
Can we pause for just a second and then go back in?
Oh, no, sure.
Who's playing harmonica there?
Harmonica on this album, I'm actually looking at I was looking that up. I think Anderson played some harmonica too, but I'm not sure. Let's see. Yes, Ian Anderson's credited as the mouth organ, so there you go.
All right, yeah, that's impressive. He's good with those woodwind instruments.
Anderson is a multi-instrumentalist. He plays a lot of instruments besides that. He's even played drums on a few of his solo records. I wouldn't say he's an amazing drummer, but he gets the job done. Point being, he's able to pick up instruments quickly.
Well, I'll just pose this to you. Like, I'm a Prince fan, and yeah, like, again, what you just said about drumming, like, Prince isn't a great drummer, but when you listen to an album and know that it's him playing on every single thing, it sort of bolsters it up, and you feel more of a personal thing coming across, because it's like, okay, wow, this guy buckled down and did it all himself.
That's what John Fogerty actually did in his solo career after he left Creedence Clearwater Revival. The Blue Ridge Rangers album, the '75 John Fogerty album, and then the Center Field album.
Oh,
1984.
why'd you have to bring that up?
I know you're not a fan of center field, but I
Well,
like
I
it.
got it. Well, I don't know if I've ever told you this. My little brother was really into Little League when I was growing up. And my dad, and I should point out, my dad is obnoxious about stuff like that. So
You do realize there are more songs on center field than just center field, right?
yeah, I know, but that
Okay.
song, like, it just, oh God, like, it makes me laugh. Don't get it's this novelty to me, and
Of course. And you know what? To be honest, I don't mind a novelty track here and there. And I know you don't either because you listen to Green Jello, and at least half of their songs have novelty qualities.
yes, I know. But the thing about center field is like whatever earnestness is supposed to be there is lost on me personally.
You know what? I wouldn't call it my favorite song on that album.
No, yeah, it
but
comes off as so dumb, but like it said, it's also kind of fun. Like, I mean, it is. It's dumb. Put me in, coach. Like,
it's a salute to baseball. You know what? I'm
It's
not
funny.
a big baseball fan either, so
I can't put my finger on why it's so funny, but it's funny to me.
So anyway, back to this song. Someday the sun won't shine for you. The lyrics of it, I'm actually going to read the whole song here because it's a very short lyric sheet. In the morning, going to get my things together, packing up, and I'm leaving this place. I don't believe you'll cry. There'll be a smile upon your face. I didn't think how much you'd hurt me. That's something that I laugh about. Bring in the good times, baby, and let the bad times out. That old sun keeps on shining, but someday it won't shine for you. In the morning, I'll be leaving. I'll leave your mother, too.
What the hell?
Once again, old school, simple blues song.
Well, no. Yes, musically, but lyrically,
it evokes-
well, since lyrically we're starting to dive into the more eccentric side of Ian Anderson's brain.
Right. Well, it's getting into some very interesting territory in that it starts off as a simple song about, a guy who's sick of this, dating this girl, and he's leaving her, and he thinks that she's probably done with him too. But that last line, "and I'll leave your mother too," was he also dating her? That's something you kind of have to think about a little bit. I'm gonna go with possibly.
Probably, but
Now, something I want to get into, by the way, which we'll probably touch on, sort of a similarity between Kiss and Jethro Tull. Ian Anderson had a strict policy within the band of anti-alcohol, anti-drugs.
really.
Teetotaling.
I think, and I know we're going to get a little personal here. We're both prog rock fans, but there's a lot of prog rock stuff that I don't know if I would have been able to stick with if I hadn't been on drugs or alcohol at the time.
And me as not someone who's imbibed in drugs, although I have done some alcohol, I got into it without that. So yeah, I can understand that.
It sort of goes back to that Frank Zappa thing of like a lot of Frank Zappa's music would probably benefit from some kind of substance, but it doesn't need to.
Well, right, and here's the thing: the point.
And I think if I remember correctly, Frank Zappa he finds it insulting if people enjoy his music under the influence, right?
My understanding with him was that I don't think he found it necessarily insulting, but I think he found it insulting that when people made the suggestion that that's the best way to appreciate his music.
Right, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I forget who said it and what it was about, but somebody was talking about, like, a comedian was saying, like, if I get laughs when I'm high, it's not a credible laugh.
Was not Doug Benson, I would guess.
No, I forget who it was, but there was some comedian that said that, like, if I'm getting laughs because the audience is high, then I didn't earn those laughs.
Right. So the next song on this album, Beggar's Farm, I'm going to go ahead and pull it up, and we'll listen to a little bit of it.
Taking chances, going down. Gonna hide it that time. Cause singing made no sound
The rhythm on this is really interesting.
for
Yeah,
me.
it definitely has a different time signature than you'd expect for this kind of
If
movement.
you ignore the things I see, someday soon's gonna find your way down on Beggar's Farm. Way down on Beggar's Farm.
All right, so this song, I'm going to delve into the lyrics right away because this is one of the more interesting passages, and I'm very curious what you think when you hear this. The first verse, you're taking chances and your reputation's going down. Going out in the nighttime, you think you make no sound, but you don't fool me because I know how you feel. You ignore the things I say, someday soon's gonna find you way down on Beggar's Farm. I pay my money for no returns. I think I need you, going to find someone. Oh, you don't fool me, because I know what you feel. When you go out, I ask you why. And I don't worry when I see you lying down on Beggar's Farm.
This is a little too abstract for me because I don't know who he's talking to. It could be a prostitute. It sounds like this could be about a prostitute farm.
The last verse has a little bit more telling. When you run to me, going to turn away, won't even listen when you try to say that you were only fooling around, because I know what you feel. But if you ask me nicely, woman, I'll wake up early one day soon, and I'll visit you down on Beggar's Farm.
That's so weird because it seems like pretty straightforward talking to a forlorn lover, but all that shit about the farm throws me off. I don't know what the hell the farm is about.
Well, when I think Beggar's Farm, I think you're right in the term abstract, in that I think it's more of, it's sort of like a gold digger kind of thing.
I think, well, yeah, but that's the thing that's what kind of bothers me is that like if you're going to be abstract, go all the way abstract. Don't kind of lace in these abstractness with more straightforward lyrics because that gets confusing.
Well, the thing about that, I don't begrudge a writer for being abstract in music because it makes you think about it, and ultimately I think it's the song is kind of a jazzy blues song that's ultimately much like the previous song. It's about a man leaving a woman,
Right.
and the deeper you delve into it, you get more from why. So the song "Someday the Sun Won't Shine for You" is more of an angry song, and this is more, I think, practical, and that the woman that he was with is maybe more of someone that he's, you know, he basically says, you know, someday I might visit you if you're down at Beggar's Farm, meaning when you're, if you need me. So right now she doesn't need him. Which has that has an interesting element to it.
Mhm.
Now the next song on the album, "Move On Alone." The horn adds an interesting side to it.
It sounds like the Matlock theme song.
This is the only song written by Mick Abrams.
I feel
Oh.
sad now that she's gone. I've been loving that woman too long.
He sings it, by the way, too.
No place to go, cause my friends have all moved. Got nothing but sit in the sun. Got tired of crying. Guess I'll move on alone.
If you told me this was a Jethro Tull song, I'd tell you to fuck off. I wouldn't believe you.
Well, it is, and so...
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I hear this and I think of maybe a little Bee Gees with a little bit more of an edge.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely doesn't have the same sound, and I think it automatically tells you right off the bat that there was a little bit of a pull between Mick Abrams and the rest of the band as far as the sound that they were going to go for.
Mm-hmm.
and the lyrics on it are sort of instead of the song being about a person who's leaving a lover. In this case, it says, "I feel so sad now that she's gone. I've been loving that woman too long. There is no place to go because my friends have all moved. Got nothing but sit in the sun. Got tired of crying. Guess I'll move on alone." So this is kind of an emo song. This is a song about someone who's just down in the dumps.
Right.
And yeah, it's, I think it's just another basic track. It's worth noting there are actually from here. This is where the album starts to get interesting because, in a way, because there's a lot more instrumentals from this point forward. And Mick Abrams, my understanding, played a much heavier role in that because of his guitar work. Serenade to a Cuckoo. We're going to skip around in a couple bits of this song. We'll start with the intro and then we'll move on a little bit. Alright, we'll move on forward a little bit. Then one more. Alright, so this song really was I would say a set piece with which to have Ian Anderson work out his abilities on the flute.
Mm-hmm.
And it really, I think it's a nice little instrumental number. It's not something that I have any need to particularly listen to unless I'm listening to the album beginning to end.
Mm-hmm.
It works on the album, but on its own as a single piece, it's really just an instrumental number with a little bit of a flute jam. Do you have any thoughts on it?
The song Moondance by Van Morrison really annoys me, and I could definitely see myself going to this before that.
Okay.
I know. It's a weird thing, but Moondance has always annoyed the piss out of me.
The album Moondance is fantastic. Every song on that, and I enjoy the song Moondance, but
I don't like it. I don't know why. It just...
Well, it is. Yeah, you'd probably like the rest of the album, though, I would say. All right, Dharma for One. Now, this song is another instrumental that, in this time period, was sort of their instrumental piece at their live shows. And in fact, the live version of Dharma for One is the one that we're going to end up playing instead of the one from the album. Mm-hmm. Just because that's, honestly, a better example of who they were. So this is from the compilation Living in the Past, which was a compilation of sort of the best of their early work.
Here's a song called... Yes, right. Rearranged, though, nonetheless. Music's the life. In other words, it's just a bit louder. Dharma for One.
There you go. This is the first time I've heard the flute sound aggressive on this album.
Well, this is the live version, of course.
Right. But I mean, the whole thing, like, once this song gets out of the gate, it's just an onslaught of, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, melody and kind of very strong.
Let's skip ahead a little bit. See, the live version is 10 minutes long. And I'll go one more. For a little bit of a drum solo. All right. So that solo is, just another example of the musicality of the band and how everyone in Jethro Tull was, strong, very strong and very talented. While Ian Anderson may, of course, be the brains behind the band, he did back it up with solid talent as well.
Right.
Now, the next song on this was "It's Breaking Me Up." Sort of return to the blues. Solid guitar work from Mick Abrams.
His guitar work sounds a lot like B.B. King, doesn't it?
Oh, certainly. I can hear that influence.
I said you're breaking me up, mama. You're breaking me down. You're lying little bitty. Scattered around.
Now I'm going to try to find the solo in this. Here we go. Here we go. Okay.
Of all the traditional blues rockers on this album, I think this one is the one I can get with. This is the one I say, hey, I can see where you're coming from. I can see your influences. I can get down with this rhythm. There's a distinct groove to it.
Right. This is probably the strongest of the more conventional blues songs on it. The lyrics have, once again, a very strong blues bent in that it's kind of about a breakup.
Mm-hmm.
So many long days, so many ways, I try to get through what lies deep inside of you. Oh, baby, I said, you're breaking me up, woman. Yeah, you're breaking me down. You're lying in little pieces, scattered all around. You're doing your worst to see me get hurt. You're waiting to see the tears running out of me. But oh, baby, I said, you're breaking me up, woman. You're breaking me down. You're lying in little pieces, scattered all around. I like that. It has a real visceral nature to it.
Yeah, like tear it up and throw it in your face.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, this is one of my favorite songs on the album. The next song, "Cat Squirrel," is another instrumental piece.
Is this supposed to evoke images of a cat squirrel hybrid?
Like cat dog, maybe?
Cat dog. I might be a little loaded right now, but I'm hearing a bit of a punk thing going on. Very early punk, like MC5.
I can kind of see that. And if Serenade to a Cuckoo, for instance, was the Serenade to a Cuckoo was the Ian Anderson piece. Very much the Mick Abrams electric guitar solo in here.
Baby, please don't go.
So yeah, this song is.
I feel like there was a bit more anger, a bit more bite to it. Like I said, it definitely evokes kind of a punkier feeling for me.
The reason I didn't play the studio version of Dharma for One is it feels kind of neutered by comparison to the live version.
That'll happen. Yeah, that'll happen on albums.
Cat's Squirrel, on the other hand, feels almost like a live recording that was just cut onto the album.
Mm-hmm.
It has that. It was probably recorded live in studio. That would be my guess. I don't think it was pieced together. Now, the next song on this album, we're not going to play from the album itself. We're going to play a promo video, and it's called "A Song for Jeffrey." Now, a song for Jeffrey. If you want to look up the promo, you would find our playlist of this at movieboozer. I'm sorry, at youtube.com/movieboozercom.
Oh yeah, that's our channel page. You go there, click playlists, all the playlists for all our podcasts.
And the playlist for this one in particular is just the first episode of Told the Truth. Now, this video was recorded during the Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus.
Let's explain what that was for a second, because that was a weird thing that happened that never happened again. Which is the Rolling Stones decided to assemble a bunch of not only established bands but also up-and-coming bands like Jethro Tull,
and bands that in particular had diverse sounds to them.
And John and Yoko, because why the fuck not?
Right. And yeah, but the Rock and Roll Circus was not actually even released officially until well into, I believe, the late 80s, but widely bootlegged. And the reason why, allegedly, is that the Rolling Stones thought that their playing on their songs wasn't particularly that good.
And that's a fucking shame, because we're about to hear some Tull playing on Rock and Roll Circus, but the Who recorded one of their definitive, a quick one while he's away, recordings at that performance. So.
Mm-hmm. All right, so here we go.
Ostrich leg, I do that shit.
This was really the video where Ian Anderson became first known for his snoot and putting one leg up.
No joke, that is something I have done since I was about 10 years old, is ostrich leg. I still do it to this day, and usually I don't realize that I'm doing it. I only bring it up now because so many people have pointed it out to me. Which is really, have you ever had somebody point out a mannerism to you?
Yeah.
It's really weird, and there's no way to be sincere about it, so let's just let it go. He looks like Gary Sinise as Lieutenant Dan right here, very, very much.
Well, definitely, and what I love about this video is it's an early example that just shows Ian Anderson is probably a little bit crazy. He has crazy eyes.
You have to
be out on the flute.
If you wanted to have a career in music in the late 60s, early 70s, you had to be insane.
that's all we'll play of the video. Ian Anderson really gives it all he can, and as does the rest of the band in that video. Now, Mick Abrams is not actually playing guitar in that video. By the time that Rock and Roll Circus was there, he had left the band, but the guitarist Martin Bear, who replaced him, does a friggin' fantastic job. So
yeah, and you can definitely hear what would become the signature Toll sound there.
Well, he mimics. He definitely mimics Mick Abrams' guitar playing for almost note for note for that. But he was a fantastic guitarist on his own. Bear would stay with Jethro Tull longer than any other Tull member, and you know what? That's a testament to his talent. Now, it is worth noting that there was a brief period in Tull history where instead of Martin Bear and Mick Abrams, the guitar player was Tony Iommi, who is noteworthy as the guitarist for Black Sabbath.
Do we have any recordings of him with them?
I don't know whether there are many recordings of it. In fact, let me type that in just because.
Yeah, I'd love to hear what he brought. I mean, again, like this is both of these people, Ian Anderson and Tony Iommi, hadn't really come into their own as far as the techniques and the signature things that they would bring to their own music in later years. But I'm very interested to hear.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I stand corrected. That was him during the Rock and Roll Circus video.
Really? Huh.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I stand corrected. I guess that's the most prominent example of him playing with Tull. They didn't record anything together.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of the live events.
Right.
So, with that said, the next song we have on the album is the final instrumental number, Round.
I would listen to the shit out of this if I was walking to the store. Yeah, just like this is me mimicking walking.
Yeah. What's that from Dumb and Dumber? If you do this really fast, it feels like you're running at a very. So yeah, Round is just a minute long, and it's just a simple instrumental number that I think rounds out the album nicely. And we actually didn't talk about the lyrics for A Song for Jeffrey, so I want to go back to that really quick. Song for Jeffrey, the lyrics of it are, well, here, let me go ahead and... they're very simple. Gonna lose my way tomorrow. Gonna give away my car. I'll take you along with me, but you would not go so far. Don't see what I do, not want to see. You don't hear what I don't say. Won't be what I don't want to be. I continue in my way. Don't see where I'm going. Don't see where I'm going. Don't want to. Every day, I see the morning coming, the same old way. I tell myself tomorrow brings me things I would not dream today.
Now, have they ever specified who Jeffrey is?
You know what? I wish I knew. I'm sure there are fans of Tull who are probably familiar with all of these little references, but I'm guessing Jeffrey's probably a member of maybe a former member of the band, or maybe a friend of his, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that said, overall, I think this is a very tentative early album for the band, and the use of so many instrumentals, I think, automatically tells you, that this was, this was them throwing everything they had right out front. And I think it's got some very strong numbers, but overall it's sort of just an interesting introduction to the band with a handful of solid highlights.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I don't want to be insulting because it's not my intention at all. Like, if I had heard this, that's the problem, is that I've heard Aqualung and Thick as a Brick, so this makes me hungry for, like, that perfection of this sound, you know?
Oh, absolutely. And I would argue of that, there are a couple songs on this that could have fit into their later repertoire, and they kind of abandoned this sound more or less by the time Aqualung had come around. Their next album, Stand Up, was the first of a two-album transition into the Aqualung full-on prog band that Tull would be. Stand Up came out very shortly after This Was. It was released August 1st, 1969, so less than a year after This Was. And the album was actually #1 in the.
Do you think that was intentional? This was after This Was, and
Oh yeah, actually, in an interview, Ian Anderson said about This Was, the part of the reason how the album got its name was by the time they were ready to name the album, they sensed that their next album was going to be totally different because Mick Abrams had already essentially hinted he was on the way out.
well, okay.
So this
Yeah.
was Jethro Tull, as in. So
It's a funny title, yeah. It's definitely a clever, funny title for an album.
Mm-hmm. And Stand Up. Now, this album, as I was mentioning, actually was their first #1 hit album in the UK. It charted in the US respectably at number 20 when it was released in 1973 as a reissue. It actually did not chart in the US otherwise. But Stand Up, the first thing you'll notice about it is the blues element, other than maybe the first song, is being replaced by a heavier bent of folk rock. So here is the first song, A New Day Yesterday. This is probably the closest to This Was that the album gets.
It's very Led Zeppelin sounding. In fact, this sounds exactly like Led Zeppelin.
And we had some fun. We're walking through the trees, yeah. And I kissed you once. Oh, I want to see you, but I wonder how. It wasn't you. But it's an old way now. Spent a long time looking.
Did Led Zeppelin's first album come out before this did?
Led Zeppelin's first album, let's see, Led Zeppelin.
It should be titled Led Zeppelin, eponymous.
I'm looking it up. It probably came out, let's see, okay, Led Zeppelin 1 came out in 1969.
Yes. Okay, but see, that's the thing, is that, like, I'm comparing them to Led Zeppelin, but specifically, it sounds like that first album a lot.
You're right, and actually the album's release, all right, Led Zeppelin's first album was released January 12th, 1969 in the US, and it was released in March 1969 in the UK. That's interesting. It was released first in the US. Stand Up was released very shortly. I mean, not very shortly, but the same year in August. So, but it is worth noting Led Zeppelin and Jethro Tull toured together.
Oh, okay.
Aqualung, for instance, and Anderson has said this, that at the studio where they were recording Aqualung, Led Zeppelin was actually just a couple doors down recording their album at the time. I forget which one. I think it was Led Zeppelin 4 or Led Zeppelin 3. It
would have had to be one of those two, I think.
Mhm. And in the interview, he basically said that, and one thing that kind of bothered them about it was that they had Led Zeppelin had a nice little studio, and Jethro Tull had a huge studio that was too big. Anderson was never fully satisfied with the production of Aqualung, and so we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
But that first song, A New Day Yesterday, I think is a solid blues rock number, which, you're right, is very evocative of Zeppelin. The next song, and by the way, I found out who Jeffrey was. Jeffrey Hammond, who was a member of Jethro Tull for a brief period. Not even a brief period. He played on Aqualung, Thick as a Brick, Passion Play, War Child, Minstrel in the Gallery. So a lot of Tull's albums.
Yeah, a lot of the best.
And the reason why I looked up who it is because the second song on Stand Up is called Jeffrey Goes to Leicester Square.
The ongoing epic saga of Jeffrey.
Of Jeffrey, yep.
They're honing it. They're honing that sound.
Mm-hmm.
Say, woman, walking down the Easter Square every day.
I haven't quite sealed the deal just yet.
Gonna get a piece out of my mind. You think you're gonna piece out of my kind? Careful where the people go.
Okay, so this first song, or the second song, Jeffrey Goes to Leicester Square, the lyrics are pretty simple. Bright city woman walking down Leicester Square every day. Gonna get a piece of my mind. You think you're not a piece of my kind? Everywhere the people looking? Why don't you get up and sing? Bright city woman, where did you learn all those things you say? You listen to the newsmen on TV, you may fool yourself, but you don't fool me. I'll see you in another place, another time. You may be someone's, but you won't be mine.
Did we hit the chorus?
In the song?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, here.
Yeah, let it play a little, because it was building up, and then it stopped, and that kind of gave me blue balls.
Bright city woman, where did you learn all the things you say?
See, there isn't really chorus per se.
Yeah, I'm seeing
and
that.
then there's the instrumental section. Now, the next song on the album we'll go ahead and cover is the instrumental Bourrée, which is, of course, a song that many bands have played. And you'll hear a lot of instrumental bands play Bourrée.
Moondance.
No, not at all.
That was the melody from Moondance. Play that back. Go back to the beginning.
No, hold on. I have Moondance, so we'll let this play for a bit.
That's the fucking melody from Moondance.
Okay.
It's a marvelous night for a moon dance. I'm scared. Oh, you cut it in just there. Wow, that was amazing.
A marvelous night for a moon dance with the stars up above in your eyes. A fantabulous night to make romance beneath the cover of October skies. And all the leaves on the trees are falling to the sound of the breezes that blow. Yeah, I'm trying
I can see similarities, but it's not the same.
of your
No, I don't know what he says, but I know the melody for sure.
Yeah, I take it you're not much of a Van Morrison fan?
No, it's not that. In fact, I will, real quick aside, I'll try to make this as brief as possible, but the song "Everyone" by Van Morrison I heard in the Royal Tenenbaums.
Mm-hmm.
Freaking great! Love it, love it, love it. It's
Also on the
used in the
Moondance
film.
album, by the way.
Is it? Okay, yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't have anything against Van Morrison. Even like Brown Eyed Girl, as overplayed as it is.
You should really consider listening to his studio albums. I would recommend Tupelo Honey. That's probably one of his more interesting studio albums.
Coming
Moondance
up,
is great.
brand new podcast, Movie Boozer Has a Van, where we'll cover all of Van Morrison.
The Van Down by the River.
We'll come up with some dumb van pun, and it'll be funny.
That'll be interesting. That'll be a long one because Van Morrison, since the 1980s, he's recorded approximately a studio album every year. So
Good Lord. Wow. I don't know if I want to go that far with it.
we'll pick and choose if we do. So the next song on this whole album, Back to the Family.
Climb upon my faithful steed.
Wakes me in the morning. Have to get up to answer the call. So I think I'll go back.
That was a Tenacious D reference, by the way.
Oh, I caught it.
Me at all. Living this life has its problems. So I think that I'll give it a break.
Is this Ian Anderson singing?
Yeah.
Back to the family.
He sounds like a different person, a little bit.
About all I can take.
Taking it back to what I said on the first album, there's a little bit of a Monkees thing going on here.
Counting house, counting all his money. Sister sitting by the mirror.
Until this part happened.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And here am I thinking to myself, just wondering what I think to do.
Now it sounds like Jethro Tull.
This is honestly one of my favorite songs on the album because it starts off with a nice slow build and it just explodes. Then it just eases back off.
All my problems. Well, I did not get nothing for free.
I'm gonna listen to as much of this song as possible just to delve into it.
I'm into it.
Is bothering me. I'll get a train back to the city. That soft life was getting me down. There's more fun away.
Yeah, he's definitely doing something weird with his voice, where he's kind of talking like this a little bit.
He did the same thing on a song for Jeffrey, though.
Ah, okay, I must have missed that.
Everything I do is wrong. What the hell was I thinking? Phone keeps ringing all day long. I got no time for thinking. And every day
Did Tony Iommi have anything to do with this song? I mean, it doesn't seem like he did.
Well, because he was around during the time period that he put out together, he figured that out.
Say the music was drowning you out. I couldn't hear what you said.
What I was saying is that it wouldn't surprise me since Iommi was present during the time that these songs were being written.
There's definitely a Black Sabbath thing going on with the guitar and how it kind of goes down the bars, you know, that bum bum bum. That's a very Black Sabbath-y thing.
Looking at the personnel involved, the lead guitarist, let's see, yeah, Martin Bear, whose middle name is Lancelot, actually. That's kind of awesome.
That's his real middle name?
Yes, Martin Lancelot Bear.
Huh.
B-A-R-R-E. But anyway, and then the drums by Clive Bunker and Glenn Cornick on bass, with Ian Anderson playing vocals, flute, acoustic guitar, Hammond organ, piano, mandolin, balalaika, and the harmonica. That's interesting. Even the balalaika, that's a Russian folk instrument, if you're not familiar. So anyway, the next song, Look Into the Sun.
To the sad song of one sweet evening, I smile and quickly turn away. It's not easy singing sad songs, but still the easiest way, I have to say.
At this point, Tull is firmly in the folk rock vein.
So when you look into the sun, see all the things we haven't done. Was it better than to run and spend the summer crying? Now summer cannot come anyway.
All right.
This is the definition of a pull your lighter out and sway back and forth.
Absolutely. And this album's stand-up is unlike this was, which I think you can pretty much get out of it the first time you listen to it. Most of what it has in store for you. The songs that are good you'll recognize immediately. This is more of a slow burner of an album. The more you listen to it, the more you'll catch elements of songs that you like. And this is one that the first time I heard it, I honestly didn't see as much in it as when I've re-listened to it. And actually, the lyrics are pretty introspective. I really like this. Took a sad song of one sweet evening. I smiled and quickly turned away. It's not easy singing sad songs, but still the easiest way, I have to say. So when you look into the sun and see the things we haven't done, oh, it was better than to run, than to spend the summer crying. Now summer cannot come anyway. I had waited for time to change her. The only change that came was over me. She pretended not to want love. I hope she was only fooling me. So when you look into the sun, look for the pleasures nearly won. Or it was better than to run, than to spend summer singing. And summer could have come in a day. Yeah, really, I mean, there's so many images that evokes. And there's so much to say from that. And there's more lyrics, but I'm gonna pull the plug at that point and move on to our next song, which is Nothing Is Easy.
Now, I will say this as somebody that, again, is coming into this having listened to Aqualung and Thick as a Brick as a whole album. Those albums feel like the flute was dialed back a little bit more. This one is a little too flute heavy for me, where it's just like hardcore flute on every single track, you know? And it's not a bad thing. I mean, the guy is fucking killing it, but at the same time, I don't know if I want to hear a flute on every single track, you know?
You know what it is? It's a good example of that is when Blues Traveler came out. Literally every Blues Traveler track on that album 4 that was a hit has just insane harmonica histrionics on it. John Popper's just blasting it out on each track. And their later albums, they dialed it back significantly to the point where on one of their more recent albums, Bastardos, you can only really hear harmonica played on a handful of songs.
John Popper, if you're listening and you want to come on, I have to say we want to have you on our show, but we're gonna bug the fuck out of you about Blues Brothers 2000.
Actually, I'd have more questions about Kingpin personally.
I would just be like up his ass about Blues Brothers 2000, most likely. No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't be a nuisance about it, but you know.
Which is why he will never come on our show.
You never
The
know.
next song, I don't have much to say about Nothing Is Easy. It's I think an okay, mostly instrumental number.
It's one of those songs that gives you an inkling of where this band is going, but at the same time, like I said, as track, what number track are we on? Like 6?
It's track 5 actually. But yeah, I mean, it's not an instrumental, but that's kind of the focus of it. The lyrics of it are nothing to run away for. But it's a minor stumbling point on the next song. The next song is a short number called Fat Man.
What's the title of this again?
Fat Man. Not the PH kind.
Don't want to be a fat man. People would think that I was just good fun. Would rather be a thin man. I am so glad to go on being one. Too much to carry around with you.
Yes, Ian Anderson. We all heard George Harrison's Indian influences through those former years.
This is him using the balalaika.
We love you in the morning and all night time too.
It's a little too derivative of George Harrison for me to really give it any credit.
Well, I don't know if I'll call it derivative of George Harrison. I think it's an okay song.
How I don't mean to be insulting, but how isn't it derivative of George Harrison?
Because George Harrison played Indian music, and this is not Indian music. There's no sitar whatsoever involved in it.
What's the instrument he's playing?
Balalaika.
And it's from where?
Russia.
This just goes to show how culturally ignorant I am, but it sounds like Indian music to me. If this came on at a bazaar or something, I wouldn't bat an eye.
I would. The difference I would say is this has more of a gypsy kind of sound to it, where it has that Eastern European travelers element to it.
I'll take Gogol Bordello over this any day.
Okay. So the next song, We Used to Know.
Whenever I get to feel this way,
there you go.
Few words to say. A thing about the bad old days.
We got a strong chord progression.
We used to know.
Solid melody.
Winter turned me cold. Fears of dying, getting old. We ran the race. The race was won.
Build up.
By running slowly.
Yes.
Could be soon we'll cease to sound. Slowly upstairs, past the down. Then to revisit stony grounds. We used to know. Remember mornings.
I'm tempted to say this is too traditional rock, but I'm digging it. Like, it works.
The bad old days, they came and went.
Going back to Led Zeppelin, this is the kind of song Led Zeppelin would perfect after that first album, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I'm already fluted out in the album.
I think the flute is the set piece of this song. It really works on it.
That guitar, no, that distortion's coming in. This is shitting on that flute for me.
Saving up the
I'll
birds.
go ahead and stop it there at the guitar solo, which is the set piece of the album is really the soloing. And the guitar solo certainly just blows up this album. It's a really solid rocker that I know you're not maybe as much of a fan of the progression, but I think that it worked.
On
really-
on whoa on that song?
Yeah.
No, I did. I like that one. I'm saying that one. It feels like one of those morose rock songs. That it's probably about something negative. Again, like when I listen to a song, the lyrics are like the last thing I pay attention to. So I didn't pick up on the lyrics of that. And I know we'll get into them, but I'm saying like that is a song. It feels very traditional rock songwriting. You know.
Well, let me bring you into the lyrics. Whenever I get to feel this way, try to find new words to say, I think about the bad old days we used to know. Nights of winter turned me cold, fears of dying, getting old. We ran the race, and the race was won, but running slowly. Could be soon we'll cease to sound, slowly upstairs, faster down, then to revisit stony grounds we used to know. Remembering morning, shillings spent, made no sense to leave the bed. The bad old days, they came and went, giving way to fruitful years, saving up the birds in hand, while the bush and others land. Take what we can before the man says it's time to go. Each to his own way, and I'll go mine. Best of luck with what you find. But, for your own sake, remember times we used to know. So, yeah, you're right. It is a very morose song. Of course,
I'm not such a fan of those lyrics just because the music grabs me and it's distinct enough to where it has my attention and I'm there, I'm with it, and I'm enjoying it. The lyrics, on the other hand, I think could use a bit of sharpening up.
And I would agree that the lyrics are more tentative on these earlier Toll albums.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as we get to the next album, Benefit, you will see that Anderson's lyrics have grown with leaps and bounds, and even more so Rock Along and Thick as a Brick.
Yeah.
Those three albums sort of represent a triumph in the way that they grow from one to the next. Benefit is leaps and bounds ahead in songwriting, if not quite as well put together, maybe as the later songs here. Now, this next song, "Reasons for Waiting," is
it's probably better than "Ladies in Waiting" by Kiss. That's what I'm going in with.
I'll give you that.
I wanted a girl, or should I say,
Okay,
she
shut up.
wanted me.
What a sight for my eyes to see you in sleep. Could it stop the sunrise, hearing you weep? You're not seen, you're not heard, but I stand by my word. Came 1,000 miles just to catch you while you're smiling.
Now that right there, this is a point where I can get with the flute because it's so intertwined with that guitar.
Mm-hmm.
What a need for laughter and walking at night.
They say a lot of times people will say like having the same instruments playing the same note can be like a lazy thing, but sometimes when you get that right combination of instruments, it can sound badass.
And this song is, I would say, it's a middling song on the album in the way it's styled, but I like the earnestness of the lyrics, which tell basically a simple story about, a person waking up in the morning to see the beautiful look of his girl as she sleeps and just, reveling in that. And
Ooh.
what is it?
It could be creepy. Think about it. Like,
Well,
if
he's
it.
not saying he's watching her sleep. He says he's noticing what she looks like as she sleeps. I would argue.
Well,
There's a
I'm just
difference.
saying. It's the concept of like everybody interprets something their own way. Like a creeper could hear this and be like, probably very heavy breathing, over top, like hovering over top of another person as they sleep, like.
It's not quite the police, though.
That's
You know,
true. That's
every
true.
every step you take, I'll be watching you. Oh boy.
I like that song. I don't hate, or rather, let me say, I don't hate that song because my generation produced the Puff Daddy, that terrible song about how Biggie died. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do, and it's best left unsaid.
It's really, really bad. The original Police song is a masterpiece compared to that.
The last song on Stand Up is called For 1,000 Mothers.
Did you hear mother saying I'm wrong, but I know I'm right? Did you hear father calling my name into the night, saying I'll never be what I am now, telling me I'll never find what I've already found. It was they who were wrong, but that is a song. Did you hear, baby? Come back and tell you.
I'll go ahead and fast forward a little bit because this song builds up to something.
Did you hear mother?
Around for it. Guitar interplay with the flute, very interesting mix, I think.
Yeah,
So-
it builds up to this assault of. I think the verses are maybe a little too repetitive, but it builds up to something very strong.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Now we have on our itinerary, we actually have a couple things to watch here. We have a couple videos. First of all, this is a 1969 documentary called Swing In. And what we're going to do is we're going to skip to just a couple brief moments within it. One at the 1 minute and 15 second mark, and one at the 6 minute and 10 mark.
And once again, these videos can all be found at youtube.com/movieboozercom channel page. Go to playlists. There you go. All on the playlists.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, here's the video. Pressing play here, and
Boop.
I'm going to go ahead and the mark that I need to. Oops.
The Stingray Secret.
Okay. So this was a concert video. And this early part shows sort of how tall in their early years were backstage. You see Ian Anderson's getting his flute. He's got a cigarette in mouth.
Cigarettes.
Join the stage.
Cigarettes.
Right. And there he jumps on the stage at the Royal Albert Hall.
He's got that long coat on again.
Does a curtsy.
Well, we begin. This one's called Nothing Is Easy. Quite a nice one. Thank you.
We're going to watch as they jump into the song really quick, and then we'll skip ahead.
What is he doing?
He's messing with the cameraman. And now the cameraman's messing with him.
Right, count 1, 2, 3, 4.
The guitarist, that is.
Under this noise lark.
Or the bassist, I'm sorry. As you can see, he's doing the thing with his leg once again.
Mm-hmm. Oscar's leg.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to go ahead and skip a little bit. We're too far. Okay. Alright, here we go. This is some interesting footage that I found in the documentary of them going out. And so this is kind of cool because you see some of their earlier, a little bit of fly-on-the-wall footage.
And for those watching along at youtube.com/movieboozercom, we are at 6 minutes and 22 seconds.
Mm-hmm. This is interesting because you get to the Martin Bear, the guitarist's mother, saying goodbye to him.
Hey, Johnny. And behave. Look out, Snoop. Bye, Eric.
Cheerio. Good journey.
Bye.
Where are we going? Yeah. You played that before?
No,
You played that before?
nothing.
So
I just thought that was an interesting little piece from the documentary to give you a little bit of an idea of, just a little snapshot into the background of the band and some of their off-stage stuff.
I gotta say, I was more interested in the onstage stuff because I had probably seen footage of Ian Anderson on stage before, but this is him in his youth with probably a lot of energy, and I don't think I've ever seen him that charismatic on stage before. So
even now he's pretty charismatic considering, but yeah, you're right. In these days he was going. We're actually going to see a music. A video here of him playing My Sunday Feeling live. So.
welcome, Jethro Tull.
So here you can watch some of the way they would look while performing.
Hello. Yeah, thank you.
hello, hello.
Hello, Cleveland.
We won't take a minute tuning up, I hope. We're going to do some old songs and some new songs and one or two we've never played before, it seems. And the first one is a really old one, really forgotten this one, I think. from the very first album in the days of Nick Abrahams and all that. Martin listened to the record, so we're going to play this one. It's called My Sunday Feeling. Thank you! Yes! I hope you tune up. Really exciting. I hope it's loud enough anyway.
I swear to God, it looks like he has a bathrobe on. Still warming up.
You're going to notice as their costumes get more and more elaborate as time goes on, by the way.
Similarities to
Particularly
Kiss.
Anderson.
Similarities to Kiss.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go.
Oh, yes. God damn.
My Sunday feeling is coming on over me. My Sunday feeling.
If I was some old fuck on the Grammy voting station, then I might have had to give him the heavy metal Grammy as well.
Gotta clear my head.
If I remembered this shit. Send your hate mail to movieboozer.com for that comment.
That old feeling can't let me be. Don't nobody ask me where I leave my
Okay.
night.
Oh, whoa. Give it a minute. Let me ride this.
Ask me where I leave my head last night.
There you go.
I really don't remember.
This is kicking that album cut's ass.
Anything I
Which is something that's something really. You can go ahead and pause it now, but there's something always very interesting when a band at their prime revisits something earlier that was recorded maybe not so much at their prime. For example, there's a fantastic Genesis song called "The Knife," and that was recorded prior to Phil Collins joining the band. So when you hear a live version of "The Knife" with Phil Collins playing drums on it, like it is just like it's at its zenith. You know, it's that great, perfect lineup doing that really fucking kick-ass composition that maybe didn't have that one thing that it needed back then.
To make it better. Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely see that. And yeah, that's just an example of them playing live. Here is a video of them on TV that also I found kind of interesting.
He's like Kevin Smith. He loves the long jackets.
Telephone wakes me in the morning. Never get up to answer the call. So I think I'll go back to the family when no one can ring me at all. Living this life has its problems, so I think that I'll give it a break. I'm going back to the family. I've had about all I can take. Master to the counting all his money. As I sit him by the mirror, it looks very funny. Here am I thinking to my damn, just a wonder what a thing to do.
So anyway, this is just another example of their live performances from this time period. But what I have now to close up our podcast, I'll end on this video. This is the music video, promo video rather, recorded for Living in the Past, which was not released on any of their albums, but around the time Stand Up came out, Living in the Past was released as a single. I was going to play a couple of the B-sides, but this is really, I think, a good way to end the evening.
Mm-hmm. Now, did this? Oops. There we go. Did this chart at all?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it did. This was actually their first single that charted.
Who charted? Tull charted.
Yes.
Oh man, he really does look like Gary Sinise. Infinitely better than the Lieutenant Dan band, though, I gotta say. This has that classic Tull sound.
This video is sort of a combination of the promo video, the original promo video, and some later footage that was added.
Of all the songs on Stand Up that evoke that later perfected Tull sound, wow, why wasn't this on the album? That's a quandary.
Well, these days it was very common to release things separately.
Whoops.
Now there's revolution, but they don't know what they're fighting.
I actually don't know what year this promo video was from. I'm guessing probably the late 70s.
The video itself is titled 69.
Right. But the footage is certainly not. Some of it is older footage, and some of it is definitely newer.
Mm-hmm. So is this an official music video, or is this like a edited fan video?
I believe this was a promo video for something. I forget exactly. Oh, a little light music. Interesting. Okay. So this was a 90s music video. But the song itself that they're playing is the original single. Because A Little Light Music was the name of a live album they recorded in the mid-90s. So. Anyway, but yeah, that single, just to put in perspective and as a way to end our discussion tonight, was actually their first charting single, and it charted quite highly in the United States. It was number 11 in the top 40, which actually makes it slightly higher than Bungle in the Jungle, which was number 12. Those were Tull's only two songs that charted within the top 40 in the U.S. In Britain, though, Living in the Past was number 3, so it was one of the bigger releases of the time. Anyway, so thank you for joining us on this early episode of Tull the Truth, and the next episode will cover their third album, Benefit, and transition into what many would argue is their best-known album. And thank you, and good night.